Hi, good morning and welcome to Pilates Wheel 101 with Kimmy Sunday morning. So today we're set up with a DLX and we have, I wrote on the notes, the foot loops are on the yellow straps that are attached to the anchor, and the wheel is attached to the blue straps that are attached to the extender straps, which are on the anchor. So make sure you have the written consent of your healthcare provider before starting this or any exercise routine. And we'll come onto our backs today to start with a little footwork just to warm up. Let's get our feet on the opposite side of the wheel and our tush right up next to the wheel inside these straps. And let's find our center. Make sure you're right in the middle of your mat, and make sure that the whole setup is directly centered on over the mat. And our feet are on the foot bar, and they're going to start in our arches. Actually, no. Let's start wide today, so that'll give us a better sense of where we're pushing and how we're equally pushing on both sides of the body. And so we're in our arches, our toes are turned open, our knees are tracking the toes, and let's isometrically draw our heels toward our tush, and then think of pulling the femur bones, the big leg bones, back into your hip sockets, and then pressing the tailbone into the mat. So not rolling the tailbone off the mat, you want to press it into the mat, and you have that little gap under the low spine. And you're drawing the belly button deep into your, in toward your spine, and you're hugging the muscles that wrap around the rib cage. You're pulling those together to close the rib cage up. And we're pressing the base of the skull into the mat, drawing the shoulder blades down as we're reaching the fingers toward the opposite end of the room. And take an inhale here, keeping all those points, and then exhale, extend the legs long. Feel the equal work coming on both sides of the body. So both legs are working just as equally, or just the same as both sides. And so that way we don't feel the wheel getting wobbly and off center. And when we're laying here, also think about the collarbones being nice and wide. You might want to turn the palms up toward the ceiling, and that helps open the shoulders up as well. But we're still drawing the fingers to the opposite end of the room. Exhaling on the way out, inhaling on the way in. And let's go 2 more, and last 1. Let's bend, with the feet bent in, let's move to the center of the foot bar. When we're in the center of the foot bar, that means we're at hip width apart, so that means that our feet are directly under the hips, so directly under the sit bones, and look up and make sure you're even. And now we're going to exhale and extend the legs long, drawing the kneecaps up when the legs are long, and bend it back in. So now we had it a little easier with our feet wide. Now it gets a little trickier to keep the wobble out of the wheel. So we really have to focus on pressing equally on both legs. One, let's bend it back in. Now we're going to lift up into our high heels, keeping the feet parallel, and we're going to extend the legs all the way long and drawing them back in. So now it gets a little trickier even with how we're pushing against the wheel. to press the legs long, keeping it even. Five more. And 4, 3, 2, and 1. Keep the legs long, and we're just gonna push. So depending on how big your feet are, mine are big, so my wheel is actually lifted up off the ground, pushing our heels toward the opposite end of the room. So we're just opening up the backs of the calves and bring the toes back toward you. Just getting that stretch down there. And now point the toes, lift the heels off the ground, and then bring them back down and flex the heels under the foot bar. And we'll go a couple more times. Now, our toes are pointed, and we're gonna bend the knees back in. And from here, we're going to stay with the feet on the foot bar, but we're going to bring them in the arches. And you can either have your hands straight up above the chest, which makes it a little more difficult, or you can bring your hands down onto the ground. And from here, we're going to scoop our tailbone up. So we're leading with the tailbone, lifting it up off the mat. The hips are pressing up toward the ceiling. And collarbones are staying open. Press the base of the skull into the mat. Pull your rib cage down. Make one long line with the torso up to the knees. And now start with the low spine or the low rib cage and start to peel the spine one vertebrae at a time onto the mat. Now be careful that the knees don't flare open while you're up there, and keeping everything in midline. And let's let the tailbone hit. And let's scoop again and curl back up. Pushing the hips up, pushing the knees forward, isometrically drawing the heels toward your tush so your hamstrings are up on fire. And let's curl one vertebrae at a time. So we're looking for flexibility in the spine. And let's go back up again. This time we're keeping the hips pushing up toward the ceiling as we start to extend the legs out, bend it back in and extend out. Keep pushing the hips up. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Bring it back in. Keep pushing the hips up toward the ceiling. Don't let the knees flare open. And let's bring one vertebrae at a time all the way back down to the mat. Now that we're down onto the mat, let's take our right leg and lift it up. Stretch the back of that leg out. Reach up and grab behind the calf and push the heel toward the ceiling. And then let's switch to the other side. Hamstrings, we're doing a lot of work there, so they may be feeling this stretch. All right, so now let's take our feet off the foot bar onto the other side and make our way up onto our knees. And okay, so from here, our hands are going to be on the foot bar and our knees are on the ground. Press the tops of the feet into the mat. And from here, we're just going to exhale, extend the wheel long, come down, tuck your tail under, pull your rib cage in, take your shoulder blades and pull them down your back and extend the wheel forward and back. Using the abdominal muscles to bring the wheel back toward you. We've got 5 more. turn to the side. So we're on the side of the wheel. So let's extend. We're on our right hand is on the wheel. Extend the left leg out long and reach the left arm all the way up overhead. Feel that big stretch. So our toes on the left foot are pointed in front of us. We're pressing the outer edge of that foot into the mat as we reach our left arm up overhead. Our right hand is on the wheel, making sure that we're lifted out of there so we're not sinking into that shoulder. We're keeping space through the neck as we reach up and over. Feel that nice big stretch on the whole left side of the body. And now we're going to take our left hand to the bar, right hand slides slightly back, and we're just going to press the wheel forward, getting deeper into that twisted stretch this time, lifting the belly as we pull the wheel back in, and we'll extend out a couple more times. And last one. And then let's bring the wheel back, bring the right hand back to the center, and we'll do one more side stretch. And then let's take that left knee to the ground, turn around and face the other direction. So now we are on our left hand is on the wheel, and our right leg is extended out long, pressing the outer edge of that foot into the mat and reaching the right arm up and overhead. So you're pulling the right hand in the opposite direction of the right foot just to get that deep stretch. And then let's take your right hand to the bar as your left hand comes back behind you slightly. And reach the wheel forward, getting deeper into that twisted stretch. And lift it back in. Drawing the belly button in, press forward, and inhale, lift it in. We're going to go one more time. And bring it back, and let's move the left hand back to the center. One more side stretch. And we are going to come and face the wheel again. Now we're going to come down onto our knees. We're going to lift the wheel to the shoulders, and then as we start to press the wheel up toward the ceiling, we're going to lift up off the of our heels and straighten our thighs out, and then bend it back in. Straighten our hips out and press up. So as we're doing this, our hips and our glutes are really helping press this wheel up toward the ceiling. Inhale, bring it down. Exhale, lift. Four more. And 3, 2, and last one. Let's take the wheel. We're staying up on the knees. Take the wheel, and we're going to get an underhand grip. So we're holding onto the wheel. Elbows are bent at our waist. Tuck your tail down, pull your ribcage in, draw the shoulder blades down your back as you're lifting, sort of lifting up into a nice tall lifted extended spine.
And from here, we're going to, so find the right resistance. Remember, we have the blue straps, so they're stronger than the yellow straps. So find the right resistance for you, and so that you do the move without compromising your form. Press the arms straight out in front of you for serving a platter. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's take the arms all the way down, straight from your waist, and we're going to lift the wheel straight up. Just to shoulder height. 5, we've got 5 more. And 2. And last one. Let's bring the wheel back down to the ground. We're going to get an overhand grip. Take the wheel up overhead. Elbows are pointed up toward the ceiling. Pull the rib cage in nice and strong. And now from here, we're going to extend the arms long straight up overhead, using just the elbows for your bending and flexing. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's bring it all the way back down to the ground, and we're going to take the wheel off, and we're going to put it off to the side. Make sure it's off to the side so that it's not in the way, because we're going to do some side lying legs. When we are laying on our side, let's start with our right leg. We have the anchor in the left hand, and we are going to stack, so we're laying on our side and we're stacking the hips one on top of the other. Reach over and grab onto the foot loop that is on the yellow strap and put that on the right leg. Let's extend that right leg all the way down. So this is where you really have to have a nice, good, strong grip on your anchor. So now that the leg is down on top of the other leg, stacked completely, lift your belly so that there's that little tiny gap. So you feel almost like you're pulling the top hip down toward the foot so that you keep space up here. So if you're not doing that, you sort of tend to compress through here. So if you're stacked perfectly, one hip on top of the other, pulling in an isometric way, that hip long, you should be in the right position. Lifting the belly, and that helps lift that little space underneath that side. So from here, we're going to keep the foot parallel. Point the toe, lift that leg up, and flex it down. Point, lift, flex, down, point, lift, flex, down. Don't turn that toe open. Keep it parallel. And another thing I want to point out as well is that you're keeping the space in the neck as we're laying down here. So a lot of times we have a tendency to come up to here as we're laying down to do side laying lifts. Really keep that that space through the neck and everything long. Point and flex, point and flex. Let's do one more. Point, flex down. Now let's point the toe. Another thing that you can do as well to make it a little more difficult is bring your hand either on your hip, so you're not using it for balance right here, either on your hip, or even more difficult, behind the head. We can start little circles, keeping the upper body nice and still. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10. These circles are quite small. And now let's reverse that circle. And as we're doing this, we feel like we're lengthening that leg out as we're pulling the femur bone back in, keeping all those positions, keeping the hips stacked. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now let's take that leg back up to hip height. And we're hinging just from your hip to bring a straight leg out in front of you and back. Keeping the foot parallel. 3, 4, 5. Don't let the foot drop toward the floor either, keeping it at hip height. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're going into Pilates first. So we're externally rotating that top leg open from your hip, but don't let the hip drop behind you. And now from here, we're going to lift that leg up to the ceiling and back down. Six, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Bring it back down, and let's come on to, so keeping that foot on, in the foot loop, onto our hands and knees. And from here, actually, let's come to the forearms, holding on to the anchor, and we're going to take that leg and lift it up and back. And 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Keep that leg long, and we're going to start circles. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's reverse that circle. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Bend that leg in. Let's take the foot loop off, and then we're going to turn and face the other direction. So let's line ourselves up. The right hand is on the anchor bar. Grab the foot loop. Put your left foot in the foot loop. And let's take the leg, extend it long, and stack the hips. Pull the belly button deep into your spine. Create space underneath the oblique on the right side. And let's point that toe to lift it up, keeping it parallel, and flex it on the way down. Inhale, point, lift. Exhale, flex down. Three more. 9. And the last one. Let's point the toe when we're down here, and we're going to start our circles. Remember to pull that femur bone into the hip socket as we lengthen the leg long, keeping the hips stacked. Almost feel like we're separating the hip from the top of the body. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's reverse that circle, keeping the upper body really still. That's the challenge when you have your hand on your hip or behind your head and keeping the upper body still. I feel like it's a little easier to hold the body still with your hand on the ground. 8, 9, and 10. Now that leg is going to come lifted at hip height. Point the toe as we will bring it straight out in front of us. Don't let the foot drop. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. From here, legs extended out long, externally rotate that foot, toes open from the hip, but don't let the hip fall back behind you, and lift it up toward the ceiling. Feel that stretch in the inner thigh every time you lift it up. Six, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we are coming on to our knees. Okay, so grabbing onto your anchor, and we're on our forearms, and take your left leg and lift it up toward the ceiling and bend it back in. And 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Keep the leg long, extend it all the way out, and we'll start our circles. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's reverse the circle. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Bend your knee in. Let's take that foot off the foot loop, or out of the foot loop, and then we're going to just do a little stretch in the hamstrings, and we're going to take the foot loop off the yellow strap. Let's take our right foot in the loop as we extend that leg out toward the ceiling, pushing the heel toward the ceiling. So the strap should be sort of on the ball of the foot so you can pull the toes back toward you. Right now I have my knee bent on my left side, but if you have a flexible hamstring, you can extend that leg long, but pushing the heel, so keeping the hips parallel,
and the tailbone pressing into the mat. Just take one more big deep breath in here. Bend the knee in slightly, keeping the heel pushing toward the ceiling. And so your knee is coming closer to your chest, and then keeping the knee from here, try and extend that leg up toward the ceiling a little higher so that it gets a little deeper back there. And let's bend it in one more time and press the heel toward the ceiling. Holding it a little longer. And then let's take that foot out of the foot loop, and we're going to put the left foot up there. So grab on with the left hand, right on the ball of the foot. Extend that leg long. Start it out with the knee bent, and if you're super flexible, extend the leg long. I'm not super flexible. I'm still extending my leg out long, but boy, do I feel it. Tailbone is pressing into the mat, so you're not rolling the low spine off. So you're staying in a neutral spine. And so now let's take that knee, bend it in slightly towards your chest, and now press the heel, keeping the knee where it is, press the heel up toward the ceiling as you're straightening that leg out a little bit more. And let's bend it in one more time. Boy, that's tight back there on me. And press it up. And then let's take the foot out. And that was our class for today. All right, well, thank you guys for coming out to watch, and I will see you next week, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thanks again.